Hello and welcome to CTC and ME, insights, updates, and discussions on teacher certification and licensing from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. I am Michael Gaby-Gross from the Certification Division of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We've got a great episode today, one jam-packed with information. I was recently talking to some members of the field, and they thought it would be helpful if we had some information geared specifically for new credential analysts. If you are new to the world of California teacher licensure, welcome aboard. This episode serves as an introduction and tour of the Certification Division of the Commission and some of the basics of credentialing. We're going to cover some of the basics, such as why the state requires teachers be credentialed and what the process to become credentialed is, what it means when a certification is preliminary, clear, or emergency. We'll talk about what the Certification Division does, including some of the types of documents we issue and how many applications we process. We're also going to take some time today to discuss the application process itself and give you a better sense of what to submit to us and when. Finally, for this episode, we'll talk about fingerprinting for the CTC. As I said, a jam-packed episode. Let's first talk about some of the basics. If you recall from our first episode, we talked about why credentialing matters. The holding of a valid certification from the CTC indicates that the educator is prepared to teach and furthermore has met the state standards. Certification's role is to ensure professional licensure remains up to date and requirements for licensure set forth in Education Code and California Code of Regulations are followed. It is our mission to uphold the state standards for earning a certificate to teach. We also provide guidance on credentialing topics to a variety of audiences, to LEAs, monitoring authorities, IHEs, educators, and all of our stakeholders. We want our educators to be prepared to face today's issues in education, provide their students with up-to-date tools, strategies, and information, and understand the material they are teaching. Credential requirements ensure equity for both educators and students. All educators in California have met the same standards, and therefore, all students receive the same quality of education. Credentialing also keeps students safe, as the holder of a document issued by the CTC must undergo a background check as part of meeting professional fitness. Finally, educators need to hold valid certification to collect their pay warrants pursuant to Education Code Section 45034. Therefore, to teach in a California classroom, you need one. It's the law. Certifications are comprised of various attributes that help define what the individual's preparation and service scope include. They define the setting, population, and subject matter authorized to teach. Credentials indicate documents that require a completed preparation program. Permits indicate no program completion or partial completion when discussing emergency permits. And certificates are often placeholder documents that do not authorize any service, like certificates of clearance or certificates of eligibility. Credentials are issued as either preliminary or clear. A preliminary credential is the initial credential issued to the educator after they have completed a program or provided a comparable credential from another state or country and signifies the educator must complete additional requirements before they can upgrade to the permanent clear credential. These renewal requirements must be completed during the life of the preliminary credential. A clear credential is issued once an educator completes all the requirements on their document and the educator is now considered to be fully prepared and inducted into the profession. Clear credentials can be renewed every 5 years. We have a search feature on our website to find more information on a document or search to see if an educator holds an issued document. You can click on the Search for an Educator button and you'll see 3 options. A public search, where you can enter the educator's first and last names and it displays the valid documents on file for that educator. A secured search, where you can enter the educator's social security number and date of birth. And a document number search, where you can enter the document number for the document you are trying to view. A link to the search feature will be in the show notes. Let's talk about what certification does. We issue certificates that can be focused on specific settings, cover specific grade levels, or even for specific populations like English learners. Some of the main credentials we issue are the Single Subject Teaching Credential, Multiple Subject Teaching Credential, Education Specialist Instruction Credential, and Designated Subjects Career Technical Education Teaching Credential. Together, these documents make up over 30% of our annual workload. We also issue many other types of documents, from substitute teaching permits to administrative services credentials and everything in between. We issue almost 30 different types of credentials, and among those almost 30, there are numerous routes to qualify for the documents. We have a useful page on our website covering the various areas in which we credential, a link to which will be in the show notes. Continuing on this topic of credentialing, the Certification Division processed 339,112 applications in the 23-24 fiscal year, an 8.3% increase over the previous fiscal year, and the highest number of applications processed in commission history. We receive well over 120,000 inquiries each year sent to us via email or our help request system. We answer all types of questions, ranging from discussing the requirements on a specific document to troubleshooting issues for employing agencies. We use the help request system to create a better pinpoint in communication between us and the public, and to help us further our timely and accurate customer service. The help request system is a good starting point to connect correspondence for the new system that is currently in development, the Educator Credentialing System, ECS. Let's talk more about reaching out with questions. If you are an LEA, there are a variety of topics we can assist with. If you need assistance with credential or permit requirements, need to request a correction to an existing document because we made an error, need clarification on a letter we sent you requesting additional information, or are wondering about the status of an application, please reach out. We can also assist with subject matter competency questions regarding degrees or the exams. If you are an IHE, we can assist with questions on building recommendations, what supporting documents to attach to the file, errors on recommendation, status questions, some subject matter competency questions, and when you are seeking clarification on a letter we sent you requesting additional information. We are not equipped to handle program-related questions, so for those, you will want to reach out to the Professional Services Division, PSD. Likewise, we cannot answer questions regarding the subject domains for subject matter competency coursework evaluations. We'll have a podcast episode that covers subject matter competence, so stay tuned for that. Finally, for both LEAs and IHEs, if you are having login issues or password problems when trying to log into our current system, CTC Online, the Certification Division is not the correct contact for these types of issues. We are extremely limited in our tech support abilities. Instead, you should reach out to the CTC Online team at ctconline@ctc.ca.gov with login-related issues. We've talked about the ways to contact the Certification Division. Now let's talk about some of the resources we have available and where you can find information. We'll go through them verbally, but all of the relevant links are available in the show notes. Our public website has tabs specifically for employing agencies and programs to read about the waiver application process, learn more about employer-restricted documents, or how to use the CTC Online system to submit recommendations. We have a glossary of terms and lists of credential and permit codes, so if you see something you're unfamiliar with, you have a place to find the information. The employer and program sponsor sections are helpful as you navigate the world of credentialing. All of our waiver information is in the employer section. We will have a later episode that goes into greater detail on waivers, but for now, if you are an employing agency and you need to investigate the possibility of applying for a waiver, check out the information on our website. There you'll find the waiver application, coursework, worksheets, and waiver handbook. We also have a waiver team who can answer your questions about waivers. They can be reached through the Contact Us link and selecting waivers as your category. Certain documents including, but not limited to, the Career Substitute Permit, Short-Term Staff Permit, Provisional Internship Permit, Emergency CLAD Permit, Emergency Bilingual Permit, and waivers are called employer-restricted documents. Educators cannot apply for these documents themselves, but rather need an employing agency to apply on their behalf. Likewise, for programs, there are the recommendation forms that are necessary when you must submit a recommendation with a paper application rather than through the normal online process. All of these can be found on the website. Let's talk about some of those resources, specifically the communications the Commission publishes. Coded correspondence refers to official CTC correspondence distributed through CTC e-News and published on the Commission's website. Codeds typically notify the public and interested parties of pending changes or implementation of changes in legislation, regulations, and policies and procedures. Codeds represent communication from the Commission as a whole and can be relaying program or certification updates. For example, we recently released 2 codeds covering assembly bills that affected credentialing. Coded Correspondence 2503 announced the expanded options for earning a supplementary or subject matter authorization as authorized in Assembly Bill 2473. Coded Correspondence 2504 discussed the new renewal requirement for Child Development Associate Teacher Permits as approved in Assembly Bill 1930. The subjects of these codeds are covered in greater detail in our second episode of this podcast. If you are not already subscribed to the CTC e-News listserv, I highly recommend you sign up now as we share important information and updates. A link to the listserv will be in the show notes, along with a link to the list of coded correspondence. Why should you not only subscribe to the CTC e-News listserv, but also read these codeds? Well, it's some incredibly important information and updates. Procedures change, and you want to stay updated as you advise districts, your analysts, and the educators themselves on how to proceed on a particular issue. Another official communication we provide are Certification Information Alerts, CIAs. These are different from codeds as CIAs are specific to the certification division and cover credentialing-related topics. They can share process changes, such as announcing certain application types are now available to apply online via the CTC online system, or announcing the launch of our Contact Us help request system. CIAs are a means of quickly distributing important credential information or changes to LEAs, IHEs, and interested parties. CIAs are distributed electronically through the CERT e-News listserv. Now, why should you subscribe to this listserv when you already subscribe to the CTC e-News one? Our CIAs provide information on procedures that you follow every day. Whereas codeds discuss big changes, updates, or proposed regulations, CIAs provide information on certification-specific updates and process improvements. Say you're working with a potential teacher who has moved here from another state and is looking to apply for a credential. How would they do that? Well, without staying up to date on the CIAs, you might tell them to submit a paper application packet. However, if you read our CIAs, you'll know that these applications can now be done online, which does speed up the process. A link to the listserv will be in the show notes, along with a link to the list of CIAs. We also use the CERT e-News listserv to announce the scheduling of our monthly certification Q&A office hours. These office hours are events where you can ask questions directly to the certification team and we'll answer them. Office hours are hosted by myself, the assignment unit, and an education career counselor. The benefit of attending these events is not only to get your own questions answered, but also to hear other questions that you may not have even thought of yet. We can work together to solve common issues and discuss new ideas or suggestions for improvements. Attending office hours is beneficial for both new and experienced members of the field. Subscribing to the listserv will ensure you are notified of the next scheduled office hours event. The other notice we share is the release of new podcast episodes. You will want to stay up to date on the podcasts, or at least know where you can access them on our website, as we will be discussing various aspects of certification that you need to know to successfully navigate the world of credentialing. While some episode topics might not be relevant to you as of the date of release, you may find yourself months or years from now confronted with a new issue and will be able to listen to an episode or a few episodes to gain the knowledge you need. Now let's discuss the application process. This is a big topic, but one that is vital in understanding how the certification division works and just how the process of becoming credentialed begins. Applicants can use CTC Online to apply for an ever-increasing number of document types online. Our goal is to move all applications to the online system. At the time of this recording, we have a number of document types available through the online system, giving educators the option and convenience of submitting online. We strongly encourage everyone to use the online application as it reduces processing times and becomes instantly viewable online as pending evaluation. No longer will you need to place a paper application in the mail, wait for it to arrive at the CTC's office, wait for the mail to be sorted and the application to be keyed into the system by the intake team, and then wait for an analyst to pull the application for processing. Now, once the application is paid for online, it becomes viewable online. The document is built automatically by the system, and the supporting documents are uploaded to the educator's profile directly. The analyst can then pull the application up in the system, and they have everything they need to process the application. We are hard at work adding more document types and routes to the online application process with the ultimate goal of every document type online. The 414 web form can be found on our website and can be filled out directly and then printed. Each printed 414 application receives a unique web form number, which allows our intake team to key the number, and the application automatically links to the educator's CTC Online profile. This decreases the time it takes to key new applications into the system, as we are no longer keying every bit of the application manually. Let's now talk more about the paper applications and the process they go through once you mail the application to the CTC. Once an application has been received at our office, it is stamped with a unique stamp number. The stamp number is a 10-digit number we use to identify the document. If you reach out to us regarding a particular application, it's helpful to provide us with the stamp number so we can quickly pull up the application. After all the applications for a particular day are stamped, they are then keyed into the system. As I mentioned earlier, intake staff entered the unique web form number into our system, and the application and data automatically uploads to the educator's profile. If you use the old PDF version of the application, intake staff must manually enter all the information from the application to the educator's profile. This is why using the web form is better for us and the educator. For both paper and online applications, you'll need to submit all the necessary information for the document being requested. We do not accept documentation mailed separately from the application. Therefore, it's important to ensure the applicant has everything they need prior to applying. There is one exception to this: transcripts. While we accept official paper transcripts included in the application packet, we can also accept official transcripts sent electronically directly by the university to etranscripts@ctc.ca.gov. Once we receive electronic transcripts, we can upload them to the educator's profile. We use the supporting documentation to determine whether the educator meets the education and experience requirements for the document they're requesting. Let me provide a brief description of how we evaluate an application. For either a paper application or online application, once an analyst is assigned to that application, the analyst sees the document requested and reviews the supporting documentation to determine if an applicant meets the education and experience requirements. The analyst also checks to see the application is completed correctly and fully. If the applicant meets all the requirements for the document, we'll grant it, and it will appear online after a few days. Say we process an application, but we don't have what we need to grant the document. What happens then? We will send what we call a reject letter requesting that information. This letter is sent via email and standard mail. This letter is sent to the submitter, whether it was the educator or the analyst who submitted the recommendation, and the County Office of Education. The letter states exactly what information we're seeking and explains that the recipient has up to 60 calendar days, not business days, but calendar days, to return the requested information. The return materials must be mailed with a copy of the letter. If we are requesting electronic transcripts, the educator just needs to order them to be sent directly to the CTC. We don't need the reject letter to be mailed. However, if we are requesting anything other than transcripts, we need that information to be mailed to the CTC's office with the letter. If you or the educator have questions regarding the reject letter, feel free to use our Contact Us link to ask for clarification, and please include the stamp number and initials of the analyst, found at the bottom of the letter, in your message to us so your question can be addressed by the analyst who sent the letter. What happens if you don't respond to the letter, or if you don't respond within the 60 days? The application is closed and will require a new application and application processing fee, along with all the necessary supporting documentation again. Let's talk more about online applications. When we say online applications, we mean several things. Online applications refer to the online recommendations submitted by you, LEAs and IHEs. Online direct applications are those completed by the educator directly, or they can be the courtesy applications you submit with the educator. We are continuing our expansion of online employer-requested documents. These submissions are considered a courtesy application and are not formal online recommendations as submitted by the Commission-approved programs. As such, the Commission will complete an evaluation of requirements. LEAs and IHEs must include all materials that demonstrate satisfaction of all requirements when submitting courtesy applications. These courtesy applications mirror the process once completed with paper applications, where you, the IHE or LEA, review the educator's application packet, confirm they have everything, and complete the file box with a requested issuance date if you have one. Quick aside, the file box is what we call the box on the upper right corner of the first page of the application that says IHE County District Use Only. The online recommendation process is what you'll use when recommending an educator for a credential or permit. Here, you will confirm the educator completed all the requirements for the document and use the CTC online system to upload all necessary supporting documents and build the document. You must select the document type, add the authorizations for that document, and the renewal requirements. The Handbook for Online Document Submission is available on the website to assist you with recommendations. We'll also provide a link in the show notes. Once you create the document and finish your recommendation, the applicant will be notified via email that there is a recommendation waiting for them to complete. Once they complete and pay for the document, it becomes pending evaluation in the system. Once granted, you will receive a notification letting you know it's been granted. One additional feature of the online recommendation process is the ability to request a specific issuance date within 3 months of the date of the CTC receiving the application. This means that you can choose an issuance date based on when the candidate completed your program, if it's within 3 months of the date you are building the recommendation. If you select a date beyond 3 months, we will be forced to use the date the educator paid for the recommendation, so please keep in mind the 3-month rule. An additional point to the 3-month rule, if you select an issuance date as far back as legally possible, please know that any delay in the educator completing your recommendation will affect the issuance date. If you selected a date exactly 3 months prior and the educator takes 2 months to complete the recommendation, we will not be able to accept the date you requested as it is now 5 months back. In such situations, we would use the date the educator completed the recommendation. Therefore, it behooves you to contact the educator and encourage them to complete the recommendation as quickly as possible. Online direct applications are the other type of online applications. These applications are not recommendations from an LEA or IHE, but rather they are applications submitted directly by the educator. Through the online direct application process, an educator can apply directly for their document online, attach their official supporting documentation to their profile, complete the professional fitness questions, and pay for the document. Once the payment is received, the application is immediately pending evaluation in our system. No longer will you have to mail the application to the CTC, wait for us to receive the mail, stamp and key the application before it's listed as pending. Also, no more applications getting lost in the mail. You know an online direct application arrived because it's already pending evaluation. We mentioned earlier about how to submit supporting documentation to us. We can accept electronic documentation for the online direct applications and the online recommendations. We can also accept electronic transcripts for any application type. Make sure the applicant has their university send the transcripts directly to etranscripts@ctc.ca.gov. If you receive a reject letter from us and want to know how best to respond to the letter, please reach out to us through our Contact Us link and we can go over the next steps. In continuing our discussion of the application process, I would be bereft if I didn't mention the application processing fees. Now, the following fees are as of the original recording of this episode. Please check with us if you are listening to this episode years from now, as the fees could have changed. The application processing fee is currently $100. For the online application, that fee is $102.65, $100 for the application, and $2.65 for the online transaction fee. Except when otherwise noted, the paper application fee is going to be $100. What do I mean by otherwise noted? There are occasions when only a half fee is required. For example, if you are applying to change the restricting agency on a document, the fee is $50. A certificate of clearance, which we will talk more about in a moment, only costs $50. An application to upgrade an administrative services certificate of eligibility to the preliminary credential requires only a half fee. To upgrade the initial issuance of a child development permit to a higher level permit within 3 years of the issuance date only requires a half fee. It's important to review the renewal information on the document, along with Credential Leaflet 659 on the CTC's website for fee information. We will provide a link to that leaflet in the show notes. As part of your review, you can verify the educator submitted true originals and can make copies of these documents to include in the application packet. Yes, with your verification and completing the file box, we can accept photocopies of original documentation. When educators apply directly on their own, we need the original documentation and cannot accept photocopies. You don't have to stamp the documents themselves as verified true copies, but we need the file box completed. I mentioned that we have up to 50 business days to process an application once it's received, but we also have an expedite process. Requesting to expedite an application is possible, but you should remember a few things. First and foremost, the application must be pending evaluation in our system. If it's not pending, we can't expedite it. The expedite request may be honored when requested by an employing agency and only when an educator's pay or employment is at risk. You can submit an expedite request through our Contact Us page. Make sure you include your name, position, and employing agency information so we know it's coming from an employer and not the educator. Please provide the educator's name and date of birth, along with the reason for the expedite. Can programs request expedites? Yes. If you're waiting to recommend an educator for a document and need another pending application to be granted first, please reach out and request we expedite the application and provide the reason. Expedite requests should not be submitted for normal IHE recommendations. We cannot expedite an application that has already been evaluated and has been rejected due to missing information. Also, there is no expedite process for the Division of Professional Practices, DPP. If you are new to your position, your office may need to add you as an authorized submitter to give you access to the online system. For adding an authorized submitter, the form is CL 897. If your office does not have an authorized designee to designate the authorized submitters, we will first need to add the authorized designee for your organization. For that, the form is CL 896. All necessary forms can be found on our website under the Employer tab. Make sure you are authorized by your organization and can access the CTC online system before you attempt to recommend documents. We mentioned earlier about the application status of pending evaluation, but that is just one of several application statuses you may see on our website. I want to cover a few common statuses here that you'll probably see most of the time. First, where do you find the application statuses? That would be in the educator's profile on CTC Online. If you look up an educator and click on the Application tab, you'll see the list of applications and their corresponding statuses. Let's start with the certification-specific statuses you may see. One status we spoke about already is pending evaluation. This status means that the application is waiting for an analyst to evaluate and determine whether the application can be granted, rejected, or sent to DPP. Granted status is when the evaluation is complete and the educator has been granted the document they're requesting. The document is viewable online and it has a document number. Returned for additional information means we finished our evaluation, but we were unable to grant the document. Instead, we rejected the application requesting additional information be sent to us. Credential not granted and fee used. Fee is not refundable per 5 CCR section 80487 means the application was rejected, and after 60 days without a response, the application closed. We will now require a new application packet and processing fee. If we need to send an application to DPP for their review, you will see the status of pending additional evaluation. The application is now in the hands of DPP, and the certification team will not have any updates until they finish their review. Evaluation complete means DPP has completed their process and is sending the application back to the certification division to grant the document. Fingerprints pending evaluation is a DPP status that means we are waiting for fingerprint information to arrive and be added to the educator's profile. DPP may have other application statuses, but these are the main ones. If you see another status, you should urge the educator to reach out to DPP for clarification. For our final topic today, we are going to discuss fingerprinting and the certificate of clearance. The first thing to note is that applicants need to be fingerprinted specifically for the CTC, and fingerprint information cannot be shared between agencies. This means that even if the applicant has been fingerprinted by their employer, they still need to be fingerprinted for us. We won't receive the fingerprint information they completed for another agency, and without fingerprint information on the educator's profile, we are unable to issue them any documents. There are two ways to be fingerprinted to ensure we receive the information. One is being fingerprinted by live scan, and the other is through fingerprint cards. Please know there are specific requirements for whether to use live scan or fingerprint cards. To use the live scan process, the educator must be fingerprinted physically in California. They don't necessarily have to be a California resident at the time, just physically in California. Also, they must use the 41LS form found on the CTC's website when using the live scan process so that we receive the fingerprint results. The 41LS has our specific codes on the form so that the results come to us. Each live scan operator has their own fees associated with the service. The educator will fill out the personal information on the 41LS form, and the live scan operator will complete their section on the form. We'll receive the results from the DOJ and FBI electronically. This is the faster of the two processes. The other route is through fingerprint cards. Cards are required for educators physically located in another state or country. What these applicants need to do is first send a request for cards to be mailed to them through our Fingerprint Cards request portal, a link to which will be in the show notes. Once those cards arrive, the applicant should go to a location that does ink fingerprinting. The location has its own fees associated with the service. Once the cards are complete, please include those cards with your application packet and include a check or money order for $49 on top of the fee for the application, as this $49 covers the fingerprinting fee we are charged by the Department of Justice and the FBI. We'll then receive the fingerprint information and pair it to the educator's profile. Since this is a manual process, it takes longer than the live scan process. If the educator applied electronically and must submit the fingerprint card separately, please have the applicant write the stamp number, which is created when the online application is paid for, on the fingerprint cards, so we know they should be matched with that online application. Fingerprint information is valid for 18 months without a valid document on file. Then the results are purged. A document called a Certificate of Clearance, a COC, is used to maintain the fingerprints in the system when the educator enrolls in a credential program. The COC is a 5-year document that does not authorize teaching, but it does require a background check and fingerprint clearance. The COC is used for student teachers when they don't hold any other document in our system. To review and confirm a student teacher's professional fitness to be in the classroom, the COC is the document to seek. As mentioned, this is a 5-year document, so it will last the entirety of a commission-approved credential program. The COC is technically not renewable. Instead, an applicant just applies for a brand new one if necessary. If an applicant already holds other documents issued by the CTC, such as a substitute permit or other document that required fingerprint clearance, it's up to the program to decide whether or not the applicant also needs to apply for a COC. This is a program decision, not the CTC's requirement. How does one apply for a COC? If the educator is in California, they can apply online through their educator page. If the educator is outside of California or outside of the United States, they should apply with a paper application. These applications are, at the time of this recording, processed in an expedited manner. Wow, what an episode! No doubt a few listeners' heads are spinning, but we wanted to provide an introductory episode to you all early in the season so you could have something to reference as you recommend educators and go into the school year. Don't be alarmed by the amount of information here. We tried to fit as much as we could into one large episode. Just remember the resources available to you and don't hesitate to reach out to the CTC when you have questions. Before we go, please remember that the information in this episode is valid as of the original release date, and we encourage interested parties to review the public website and the SIG for the latest information. You have been listening to CTC and ME, insights, updates, and discussions on teacher certification and licensing from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. I am Michael Gaby Gross. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for listening.